It was just another chaotic day in San Diego, but for Boosie, it would turn into the moment the feds had been waiting for. Cameras weren't rolling for a music video, but for an Instagram live session, a raw, unfiltered glimpse into his world. He thought it was harmless, talking to fans, vibing with his crew, flexing his fit, but the split-second flash of metal in his waistband would change everything. Federal agents were watching, the frame froze on their screens. Boosie unmistakably with what looked like a handgun tucked at his side. For a man with his record, that image was more than dangerous, it was damning. The clip made its rounds behind the scenes, shared from one investigator's inbox to another until it reached the prosecutors who'd been circling his name for months. By the time Boosie left that location, a quiet hunt had begun. Unmarked cars followed him through the city streets, keeping distance but never losing sight. Minutes later, red and blue lights lit up behind his vehicle. The arrest went down fast, clean, no time for questions. And just like that, Boosie's summer turned from touring stages to cold holding cells. At first, it looked like he might dodge the bullet. The original charge was dismissed in state court. Fans celebrated online, claiming the system had nothing on him. But in the shadows, the feds weren't done. They refiled the case at the federal level, armed with the same Instagram live video. This time, the stakes were higher, the penalties heavier. And somewhere in the background, another storyline was brewing, quiet but growing friction between Boosie and J. Prince. Their worlds had crossed for years, both rooted deep in Southern hip-hop's power web. At one point, it seemed like there was mutual respect, but whispers started afloat that Boosie had been moving without checking in, making plays in spaces J. Prince saw as his territory. Some insiders said it started over money. Others claimed it was about loyalty, a conversation Boosie refused to have the way J. Prince wanted it. Either way, the air between them got cold. When Boosie's arrest hit the headlines, there were folks close to the situation who swore they could feel a certain satisfaction radiating from Houston. Not in public, of course, but in private circles, the talk was that J. Prince didn't mind seeing Boosie tangled in a federal mess. Meanwhile, Boosie's legal team began to work through the evidence. It all came back to that Instagram live clip. The government didn't have wiretaps, they didn't have controlled buys, they didn't have a co-defendant ready to flip. Just that grainy seconds-long video and the fact that Boosie was a convicted felon. His lawyers argued that the video wasn't definitive, that it could have been anything in his waistband. But the prosecution countered with frame-by-frame stills, angles enhanced enough to make jurors believe. Behind closed doors, the word plea started getting thrown around. Federal court isn't like the streets. There's no bluffing when they've got the time and money to bury you in discovery. Boosie had to decide, fight it and risk years inside, or take the deal on the table and cut his losses. The plea deal wasn't a light tap. It came with supervised release, restrictions, and the kind of probation terms that make touring and free movement a nightmare. But it would keep him out of a long federal sentence. The thing about plea deals is, they're not just about guilt or innocence, they're about survival. When the news of Boosie leaning toward a plea leak, J. Prince's name came back up in online chatter. People speculated whether the Houston mogul had some hand in how hard the feds pushed, or whether his influence in certain circles meant Boosie's allies were suddenly scarce. The beef wasn't loud, but it was real. You could hear it in the way they no longer spoke about each other. See it in the way mutual acquaintances picked sides quietly. By the time Boosie stood before the judge, the Instagram live video was no longer just a clip, it was the anchor around his case. He didn't confess to every detail, but the agreement meant acknowledging enough for the court to convict. The words were short, scripted by lawyers, but the weight in his voice told the story. As he left the courthouse that day, photographers caught him with a tight expression. Not quite a scowl, but nowhere near relief. He knew the plea kept him in the game, but it also put him on a leash. Every move from here would be watched, every city checked, every slip potentially the one that sent him back inside. In the streets, the debate still raged. Some said he was smart to take the deal. Others called it a sign of weakness. And in Houston, J. Prince carried on with business as usual, never speaking on Boosie's name, but never needing to. In certain wars, silence is the loudest weapon. For Boosie, the fight wasn't over. The plea might have closed the courtroom chapter, but it opened a new one in the ongoing chess game between him and J. Prince. Both men knew the South wasn't big enough for open war, but the space between them was now lined with unspoken rules and unforgotten slights. And somewhere out there, that Instagram live clip still floated around, not just as evidence, but as a reminder of how fast the game can change, how a few seconds on camera can shift the power in ways no one saw coming.
Man, what Rochelle at, man? Better fuck something, man. I ain't got my Boosie fade filled up in a little double. Who that is? Oh, what up, babe? I heard you just fuck with that nigga Trey the dummy and shit, you heard me? What up, bitch? Man, nigga that killed Bleak, bitch. You ain't think I'm coming for your bitch ass. What, nigga, you killed Bleak? Yeah, you ain't think I'm coming for your bitch ass, huh, nigga? Nigga, what you want, bro? You want the chain? You want I want the money, bitch. I want everything. Hold on, bro. Let's get it. Let's get it, man. Let's get it. Bitch. No, look, here's the money. So I'm gonna be right now, I'm gonna give you that new Boosie CD, man. You know, before, after you kill me. Oh, now let me get to the motherfucker. You come stand there, you get hit with that, bitch. Big dick on me, Boosie bad ass, ho. Yo, man. It was messing for Slim, man. Messing for Slim? Yeah, man. Bitch, you work for Loco? No, it's messing. You work for Loco? Ain't crazy, man. Bitch, you saying it, man. This is what you feel, man. Man. You told me to snitch and die, man. It's a dirty, dirty world that we live in. Who the fuck that is coming? Right here, nigga. Huh? Uh-huh. You can't make it. Somebody slashed out your tires? Flash on, bitch! Tires, shit! And I'm my brother's keeper, yes I am.
When word first spread through Baton Rouge that Boosie's alleged hitman had been convicted for the murder of Bleak, a man who was once considered family, the streets lit up with rumors. Some people said it was inevitable. Others claimed there was more to the story. But no one expected what happened inside that courtroom the day the sentence came down.
Boosie got a lot of victims. He murdered a lot of people. He had a tattoo on his chest that says, Boosie, who next?
He's a real gangster.
Like, is he really?
Like, he's a real gangster.
Wow.
And that's the thing that people don't realize about Boosie. Like, Boosie got like 30 to 40 around him all the time. And if you touch Boosie, something's gonna happen to you. Something's gonna happen to you.
For months, the prosecution built their case like a puzzle, piece by piece. They told the jury this wasn't a random street shooting. This was a calculated execution, ordered to send a message. They laid out the details: phone calls made just hours before the hit, cell tower pings placing the suspect near the scene, and a ballistics match to a weapon connected to other unsolved shootings.
If as your friend, if you do something in the streets, he'll let the streets kill you to maintain the street rule. That's why a lot of his friends is dead and the dark cloud sits over his head. See, when you so down with the streets, homie, you have one of your partners kill, like Boosie was doing, upholding them street rules. Any man that constantly hide his eyes is not to be trusted. That's the window to the soul. Man, you look a person in his eyes, man, when you hiding your eyes, you hiding something. And Boosie hide his eyes a lot. He will not let you look into his eyes. He done crossed a lot of friends upholding these.
But the biggest blow? A witness who had been close to the operation. Someone who, according to prosecutors, knew the plan before it went down. At first, this witness kept quiet, but once the police applied pressure, the story started spilling out. The jury listened closely as they described meetings, coded conversations, and even a payout after Bleak's murder.
Picked up a teen accused of another teen that set off a series of retaliation shootings in Old South Baton Rouge.
That shooting started a rash of shootings that occurred in that particular area.
Inside the courtroom, the victim's mother sat in the front row every day, never taking her eyes off the man accused of killing her son.
Talk. I don't give a about you waking up saying nothing. You won't answer the phone line. I'll tell you on it. I'll tell you. I'll tell you to your face. You don't scare me. You don't scare me. I push you out there. Then gonna upload them.
She clutched a folded photo of Bleak, the edges worn from being held so many times. The defense fought hard, telling a different story. They painted the hitman as a product of his environment, raised in poverty, surrounded by violence, and forced to make impossible choices to survive. They argued that there wasn't enough hard evidence to prove he pulled the trigger.
You know, but as for the Boosie incident, the so-called beef with me and Lil Boosie, I ain't got no beef with Boosie because I talked to him. I talked to him maybe 5 months ago at the airport. I flew in from Mexico. I got a call that he was getting off the airplane. He was on his way to Baton Rouge because I knew somebody on the plane. I said, damn, this is the perfect time I can go catch him. white by itself.
Right.
Where ain't no entourage, it's just me and you, you know. Now, he wasn't acting like no nothing. You know, he stood up like a man. He talked to me. He told me that he ain't never crossed me. He ain't had nothing against me. He told me to look up to me in the streets. And I told him, well, my feelings were hurt because nigga told me, yank my sign down, which was petty, but it was big to me because I feel like we know each other and I just talked to you. And for you to do that, it's like you shitting on my dreams, bro. You know? So, told me didn't do it. I told him, well, shit, ain't no beef. You know, just like I say, when I say things about people on songs, people gonna blow it up because they think it's gonna be, you know, but just don't know I'm entertaining my listeners. And I talk about anybody, you know. I could be with my boy, ain't one, he make me mad. I might jot a line about his ass. You might see us later on. Right. So, make a long story short, people done caught on too. Ain't nobody really tripping. No, it ain't nothing personal. You know, like I said, I told him, I said, man, I'll be less than a man to do you something behind some he said, she said, when I can just come approach you. Because we know each other. You know, I know you and you know me.
He even admits it was all a marketing campaign.
I had did it because I had wanted to. I always think about marketing. You know what I'm saying? I thought it'd be an easier way to catch people's ear, and it worked. It did. You know what I'm saying? I did it. I took Boosie's album cover, took him off, put me on it, and I did it. But once you listen to the album, I had no diss. It wasn't a diss record. It just was something. I want to just be different, be exclusive. You know, a lot of people took it the wrong way. A lot of people understood what I was doing, and they commended me for it. You know, the music spoke for itself.
They told the jury, if you're not 100% sure, you can't take a man's life. But in end, the jury didn't see doubt. They saw a cold-blooded killing. When the verdict came back guilty on capital murder, the room felt heavier. The next phase was sentencing, and prosecutors made it clear they were going for the maximum, death.
Again, the Sheriff's Department says local rapper Torrance Hatch, better known as Lil Boosie, was arrested today on aggravated second-degree battery charges from a fight they say happened at his house on April the 12th. Sheriff's officials say when Boosie and a few others showed up at the house, there was some sort of a confrontation about the man stealing one of Boosie's necklaces. We're told that's when a fight broke out. Fists and possibly even a vase were used in the fight. One man was taken to the hospital with non-threatening injuries.
Courthouse in Baton Rouge, where the jury has returned a not guilty verdict in the murder trial of Torrance Hatch, Lil Boosie. A jury of 9 women and 3 men took about an hour to come to this decision, not guilty for Boosie. He is already serving time right now in Angola on drug charges, an 8-year sentence there. But you're looking at pictures outside District Court in downtown Baton Rouge. There was a huge crowd inside, outside the courtroom.
On sentencing day, the gallery was packed with reporters, family members, and locals who'd been following the case. The judge read the decision slowly, every word hitting like a hammer. I hereby sentence you to death. At first, the defendant just stared forward, expressionless. He'd been through the whole trial without breaking. But then, something no one expected happened. He turned his head, looked directly at the victim's mother, and said in a low voice that carried through the room, I'm sorry, I know I can't bring him back. I was wrong. There was no response. The mother just held his gaze, her face a mix of grief and defiance. Some people in the gallery shifted uncomfortably. Others tried to hold back tears. Even the court reporter lifted her head from the machine, just for a second. Deputies stepped forward, cuffed his hands, and began to lead him away. As he walked toward the side door, he glanced back once more at the family, maybe searching for forgiveness, maybe just taking one last look at the damage his actions had caused. Outside, the scene was chaotic. Cameras flashed, microphones were shoved forward, and reporters shouted questions. The prosecutor told the media it was justice served. The defense attorney admitted this was one of the most difficult cases of his career, saying, my client wanted to speak from the heart. He knows it won't change the outcome. The victim's family left quietly, avoiding the swarm of press. They didn't need to say anything. Their expressions told the whole story. In Baton Rouge, this case became a symbol, not just of one man's death, but of how deep the code of the streets runs, and how quickly loyalty can turn into betrayal. People debated whether the apology was real or just a last-minute move to save face. But whether it came from guilt or fear, it's the moment that will be remembered long after the case fades from headlines. And now, with the death sentence handed down, the clock is ticking. Appeals may be filed, lawyers will keep fighting, but for the hitman who once worked in the shadows, path ahead is clear, and it ends where the state says it will. Because in this story, there are no happy endings, only loss, regret, and the cold reality of a life taken, and another about to be.
Boosie did not finance the records. You have to finance the records. Boosie did not give Blue an advance. You didn't reimburse him for studio time. You didn't pay producers. You didn't pay for no studio time. You didn't fly him out. The only thing that Boosie has said that he did for Blue is holler at Vlad to get him on Vlad. Let him wear a chain.
Say, Chief, y'all need to ask these questions. Why you and Blue couldn't call Boosie and tell him about the deal? Why did it have to be behind his back? Why did you have to forge his signature? If he knew nothing about the deal, why did you put his signature on the paper? Why are you always being accused of stealing from your brother?